Get out, and don't come back. The words rang out like a gunshot, slicing through the quiet of our once peaceful suburban home. My father's voice boomed with a fury I'd never known he had. I stood frozen in the middle of the living room, still gripping the acceptance letter from MIT's computer science program. My mother sat on the couch, her face buried in trembling hands, while Marcus, my older brother, leaned against the doorframe with that same smug smile he'd worn since landing his spot as junior partner at Morrison Sons. This was the moment it became clear, my family valued legacy over love, tradition over dreams. "Dad, please," I said, barely above a whisper, "it's a full scholarship. I won't need a cent from you." "Enough, Oliver," he roared, slamming his fist against the coffee table. The family photos rattled, each one a lie, a snapshot of a happiness we'd only pretended to have. "The Morrison name stands for law, for generations strong. Your grandfather built this firm from nothing. Your brother gets it, but you." I looked at Marcus, clean-cut, polished, perfectly groomed for the role he'd been handed, the golden son, the heir. "I don't want to follow a path already carved out," I said, straightening my back. "I want to build something of my own. Tech is the future. If you just..." "Tech?" My father spat the word like it burned his tongue. "You want to play with computers while your brother handles million-dollar cases? You want to be some code monkey?" My mother lifted her head, her mascara smeared like bruises under her eyes. "Oliver, please, just take the Yale offer. Think about the family name." The family name, always that, never my passions, never my potential. "I'm going to MIT," I said, my voice steady. "I earned it, not because of our name, because of me." His face went crimson. "Then do it without us. No car, no money, no trust, nothing." "You can't be serious," I whispered, but deep down, I knew he was. James Morrison never made empty threats. "Choose now," he said, "law school and your family, or that foolish dream and a life on your own." I looked around one last time, at the cold pride in my father's eyes, the silent pain in my mother's, Marcus' smug little grin. This house had never been a home, it was a museum of expectations. "Goodbye, Dad," I said, turning toward the door. "If you leave now," he said, "don't ever come back." I didn't. That night, I crashed in my best friend Tom's garage, 2 duffel bags holding everything I owned. His parents didn't ask questions, they just opened the door and offered me a place to breathe. "You can stay as long as you need," Tom said, handing me a cold soda. "But, what now?" I pulled out my laptop, the one I'd bought with money from a dozen summer coding gigs. "Remember that inventory app, the one we built for fun?" He nodded. "We'd poured nights and weekends into it. I think it's time we finished it, time we made it real." Tom's eyes lit up. "We'll need money, though, hosting, servers." I opened my phone, pulled up my savings account, $12,347, every dollar I'd hidden away for this very moment. "It's not much," I said, "but it's enough to start." The months that followed were a blur, coding marathons, instant noodles, coffee-fueled nights. I juggled classes during the day, freelance gigs and app development by night. Tom's garage became our startup headquarters. We called it Stockwise. No fanfare, no launch party, just a tweet, a Reddit post, a few DMs, but it worked. Slowly, businesses started signing up. 1 became 10, 10 became 100. By the end of freshman year, we had enough traction to lease a small office. Tom dropped out to go full-time. I pushed through classes on caffeine and grit. Then came the game changer. A national retail chain noticed us, wanted a meeting. I showed up in my only suit, $50 from a thrift store, nervous but ready. "Your software's impressive," the CTO said, eyeing me, "but you're young, what makes us think you'll last?" I met his gaze, calm and sure. "Because this isn't just a project, it's everything. I don't have a fallback, this has to work." Something in that landed. They signed a contract worth $500,000. That night, Tom and I sat in our tiny office, eating discount pizza off a folding table. The air smelled like victory and pepperoni. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. My phone buzzed. "Marcus." "Hello, little brother." His voice oozed condescension. "Word is you landed a decent contract. Ready to admit your mistake and come home?" I didn't respond, just ended the call. 3 years passed in a blur of code, caffeine, and relentless growth. Stockwise evolved, no longer just an inventory tool but a full suite business operations platform. We scaled fast, hired a dozen developers, opened offices in 3 cities. Our user base exploded. Despite the success, I kept things simple. I lived in a modest apartment, reinvested every dollar back into the company. My only indulgences, a high-end laptop and a coffee machine that didn't leak. Then came the email that changed everything. Tech Weekly, the industry's holy grail, wanted to feature me on the cover of their 30 Under 30, The Future of Business Technology issue. When the magazine dropped, I was in my office sorting through acquisition offers from major tech firms. Our valuation had just hit $40 million, and whispers of a future IPO were gaining traction. My phone rang. Unknown number. Oliver, a voice I hadn't heard in years, soft, unsure. My mother. We just saw the magazine. Your father and we've been talking. I have a meeting in 5 minutes. I cut in. Please, Oliver, we're still family. I glanced at the framed MIT diploma on my wall, remembered nights studying through hunger, remembered coding in a freezing garage, remembered who was not there. Are we? I asked quietly. I have to go. I ended the call, but I knew it wouldn't be the last. After Tech Weekly, the floodgates opened. My phone lit up with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years, second cousins, distant aunts, my mom's old bridge club friends. Everyone suddenly wanted to reconnect. I ignored them all. But Marcus was relentless. One morning, he strolled into my office like he still owned the world, brushing past my assistant with a flash of his firm's business card. Little brother, he said, easing into the chair across from my desk, we need to talk. I didn't look up from my laptop. How'd you get past security? He grinned. I'm a Morrison, doors open. When I didn't respond, his smile faltered. Come on, Oliver, this grudge has gone on long enough. Mom cries about you every holiday. I finally met his gaze. Strange, I don't remember her crying when I was living in a garage. That was different, you were being stubborn. He leaned in, voice dropping. But look at you now, 40 million, that's real success. Even Dad's thinking of adding your name back to the Christmas card list. How generous. His tone sharpened. Here's the deal, the firm's expanding into tech law. Your company, your connections, could be valuable. We're having a family dinner on Sunday. Come home, let's bury the hatchet. I closed my laptop, slow and deliberate. You call this a misunderstanding, a rough patch, but I remember it differently. I remember being tossed out at 18 for choosing passion over pedigree. Don't be dramatic, you left. No, I chose, there's a difference. I stood, smoothing my jacket. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a real meeting. He called after me, smugness slipping into desperation. Don't be like this, we're family. I paused at the door. You want to talk about family? I turned. Tom's parents, who gave me a roof when I had nothing, that's family. My team, who worked for equity when I couldn't pay them, that's family. You're just someone I share DNA with. The next day, my father made his move. His assistant called, her voice tight and formal. Mr. Morrison would like to arrange a lunch meeting to discuss a potential collaboration. I said yes. I picked a high-end restaurant, one I knew he'd approve of, one I could now afford. He arrived precisely on time, just like always, still in control, still wearing the mask of power. But he looked older now, smaller. I remembered, 7 years had painted gray at his temples and carved lines around his eyes, but his posture remained military straight, still proud, still immovable. Oliver, he nodded as he sat, you look successful, amazing what playing with computers can do these days. I smiled faintly, watching him wince. Those were his own words, once hurled like an insult, now he wore them like a mask. About that, he cleared his throat. I may have been premature in my judgment. Technology is clearly the future. Morrison Sons needs to evolve. There it was, the pitch. He leaned forward, offering the same smile I'd seen win over juries. Imagine it, the Morrison name in tech law, powered by industry-leading software. We'd dominate the market. Your brother's already drafting the partnership agreement. Of course he is. I took a slow sip of water. Tell me, Dad, did you read the article? He blinked, caught off guard. I skimmed it. I'll read you a quote, I said, pulling out my phone, just a part that stood out. I scrolled, then read aloud. When asked about the source of his drive, Morrison credits early hardship. After being cut off by his wealthy family at 18, he built Stockwise from nothing, working multiple jobs while attending MIT on scholarship. Color drained from his face. Oliver, that's ancient history. The article went viral, I said. The tech world loved it. Classic underdog story. You know what's less popular? The rich, controlling family that tossed out their son for daring to dream. His expression twisted. What do you want? Money? A public apology? I laughed, and for the first time in years, it wasn't bitter, it was freeing. I want nothing from you. That's what you never understood. I didn't need your money, or your name. I just needed you to believe in me, and now? I stood, dropping my napkin on the table. Now I have a company to run. Enjoy your lunch, Dad. I hear they serve a mean humble pie. But they weren't done trying. That Sunday, I found my mother waiting outside my apartment building, dressed in designer sorrow and parked beside an imported apology. "Oh well, please," she called as I walked past, "just talk to me." I stopped. She looked older, too, but wealth had softened her aging, nothing like the hard-earned years etched into my own face. "What's left to say, Mom?" "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We were wrong, but we're still your parents. Don't you miss us?" For a moment, I did. I remembered what it felt like to be small, curled into her arms, safe from the world. But that warmth was eclipsed by a colder memory, her silence as Dad told me to leave. "I missed you when I was hungry, saving for textbooks," I said. "I missed you at graduation, when I looked out into the crowd and saw 2 empty seats. I missed you when I got my first contract and celebrated alone, in someone else's kitchen." Tears streamed down her face. "We can make it right. Come to dinner. Everyone will be there. We can be a family again." I stepped past her, heading for the door. "I have a family, Mom. I built it, just like I built everything else." She reached for my arm. "Oliver, please." "Goodbye, Mom." I turned back briefly. "Tell Dad his tech law division will have to thrive without Stockwise, and tell Marcus." I smiled. "Tell him doors don't always open just because your last name is Morrison." That night, I sat in my office, watching the city shimmer beyond the glass. The skyline looked different when you built your place in it. Tom walked in with 2 beers. "Rough week?" he asked, handing me one. "My family suddenly remembered I exist," I said, taking a long drink. "Now that I'm worth something." He nodded. "You know, my parents still ask about you. Dad's firing up the grill this weekend." I smiled, remembering the warmth of their home, their unwavering belief in me. "Tell them I'll be there," I said. "That's what family does, shows up." He raised his bottle. "To family, the ones we choose." I clinked mine against his. "To choices, the kind that make us stronger." The next morning, I walked into the boardroom to finalize preparations for our IPO. My phone buzzed, another message from Marcus. "Don't be stubborn, family is forever." I turned off the phone, smiling as I took my seat at the head of the table. He was wrong. Family isn't forever, not the kind that only shows up when you're valuable. Real family is built, not inherited. It's forged in hardship, chosen in loyalty, and nurtured in belief. And I had built something far more powerful than the Morrison legacy. I had built my own.